I am so excited today. Happy Friday, everyone. Happy Friday. It is Freestyle Friday. And it's a weekend. Wait a minute, it's a holiday weekend too. So that is just awesome. Shine is in the building. Yay. Hey
Hey,
Shine.
Gus, what's going on?
How you doing?
Good, I'm good. Can I? I'm not sure if my microphone's working, but it's all good. How are you?
Fine. Can you hear me good?
Yeah, I can hear you really, really well. I just want to change one setting here. Let's
Okay.
see. Turn up
Shine,
my.
you looking like an old man today.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't I haven't seen you in so long.
It's been a little while, huh?
Hmm.
So, hey,
Guess who I just saw last weekend?
let me take this off. What was that?
Guess who I just saw last weekend?
You saw Megan Barrett. I know all about her.
Yes.
How was that?
That was awesome. I went to Raleigh. We had brunch. It was everything was amazing. Everything was amazing. So I just want to thank you. Thank you for creating this platform. And I'm gonna go ahead and start the show.
Hey, let's do it.
Yeah,
Can't
let's
wait.
do it. Okay, y'all. So this is episode number 27. Hello, hello, hello. This is Britt with Truth Be Told podcast. Today I have a good one for you. Today I'm so excited. I am nervous too. Y'all, I got my mentor on the line. Y'all, we have the one and only Sean Croxton. Like, yay. Like that is just so big to me, y'all. If you don't know who Sean is, I'm gonna need you to go Google Sean Croxton. Like Sean is been in the game. Sean been in the game since 2006, 2007. Sean, yeah,
Yeah.
like
Huh.
been a long time. Yeah, see, I've been following you, and it's funny how divine connections just play out because Sean has been around. Like y'all, he's not new to this. He's true to this. Let me go ahead and say that he is the king of motivation. He is also like just you hear me, Shine?
Yeah, we're good now. I was able to set my microphone. We're good. Yeah.
Okay. He is just the king of motivation. He has the three top podcast shows. I'm gonna go ahead and just tell you a little bit about Sean. Let me go ahead and read about him. I know he's like really Brittany, but I need you to know who he is. He is the founder and CEO of Underground Wellness and Simple Clear Marketing. He is also the creator and host of three top ranked podcasts. You have the Underground Wellness Radio, the Sean Croxton Sessions, also the quote of the day, and the newest one is the mindset coach, which is just all about Sean. So I'm just so excited. Thank you for being on the show today, Sean.
Thank you very much. I remember when this was just an idea, this whole podcast thing, and now you're doing it. So I'm super happy for you. Way to take action.
It's because of you. It's all because of you guys. Yeah, it's like you're always talking about you pretty much make me step out on faith. You and the book club. Like shout out to the book club because I am still connected to everyone. Like everyone is just awesome. It's just funny how God plays his role. Like when you came into my life, Sean, it was 2 years. It was like 2 years ago. Well, it's probably not been that long, but it's close to it, I want to say, because you came at I was at a dark time, Sean. I had just, I was supposed to be happy, okay? Because for one, I was getting married. I was supposed to be in like this big old high, and I was excited about my wedding, but my grandmother was dying, and she passed away right before my wedding. And then my mama grandma, she passed away like right after my wedding. So it was just like a double-edged sword. It was like
Yeah.
boom on top of boom. And so I was just searching. I was looking for something. I didn't know what I was looking for. I've been reading books, been into inspirational things, but I was looking for something more, something deep. And I just started walking because I was in the country. That's why I was always, my connection was always bad in book club because I was around a whole bunch of trees. And so I just started walking. And then it's funny, like you just, like I said, God has a way, it's funny. People try to put like science on one side and God and the universe on one side. But in my world, it all plays a part. It's one big thing. It's light and love. Because boom, here comes Sean Croxton. You came on my screen and I was listening to something you were saying. I was walking. I was like, who is this guy? And then I was like, a book club. And I didn't think nothing of a book club, Sean. I was like, okay, what are we going to do in the book club? Like, what is it like? Okay, is he going to read the book to us? Like, is it like, what is he going to do? I was so nervous, Sean. I was like, okay, we're going to see. And so I got on there and I was like, okay, I didn't realize how awesome it was to be in a like-minded environment around people that support one another. It was bigger than a book club. Like, it was like everybody was like rooting for each other. Nobody was hating on each other. Or if somebody was doing one thing, you wasn't trying to copy and do what she was doing. You was just really trying to stand in your authentic truth. So I just commend you for doing that and continuing to do what you do, because you help me and you continue to help me. I listen to you every morning. So God is amazing. He's amazing. And when you came into my life, like I said, it was a really dark time. And so Personality Isn't Permanent was my first book into the book club. And I came into the book club and it was just like the most awesome book to come into. Like, it changed my life. It was. I didn't realize, Sean, like the intensity of realizing like how your thoughts and how silencing your inner critic plays a role in so much of your life and what you do. I've learned that there are 3 things that you're going to go through in life. It's the 5 senses, your thoughts, and your emotions. I feel like it's just you learning to deal with them. And that's where you came into play. You taught me to be self-aware. You definitely taught me to be self-aware. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for being part of the community. Really appreciate that.
Thank you. What do you have going on today, Sean?
No, I've been, what have I been doing? I just took the dog for a walk, doing this. I got my Boss Brain Method grad call after this, taking the dog to the dog park. And then I want to work out and watch basketball. That's it. Yeah.
I figured basketball was going to be somewhere in the equation. And shout out to shout out to Kobe and being a puppy dad. I know that's amazing. I'm pretty sure it has its challenges. Is there anything that you can share that you've learned that you thought that you knew before you got Kobe as far as being a dad now?
Well, I thought getting an older puppy was going to be easier than it was because, I didn't get the puppy at 8 weeks like a lot of people do. I got Kobe at 5 months because I thought it was going to be a little bit easier since he was older. It was not at all. It was really hard. I think he's been teaching me a lot of patience. I'm very impatient. And so he's like a reflection of me. He's like, we gotta go. We gotta go. We gotta go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. And I'm like, dude, relax. I'm like, you're just like me. So I've been really working on the patience part and just slowing down. And I like it. It's again had its challenges, but it's also been really fun and rewarding.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that you're enjoying Kobe. I'm glad he's taking up your time and just giving you a different perspective on life, because that's what animals are supposed to do. They're supposed to bring out the joy and peace and harmony and all that good stuff.
Yeah. It's good. Yesterday we were on a walk and I was like, this is cool. Like, I'm a stay-at-home dog dad. I like this, like I love taking him on adventures. I love like seeing the different stages he goes through. Like, he does like new things every couple of weeks. I'm like, oh, what is that about? You know what I mean? Like, the people who help me clean the house, they're here right now. And, he usually barks when anybody enters the door. And this time he was like really cool. And I'm like, wow, check you out.
He's learning. It's routine. Yeah, definitely cool. Routine. That means you're doing an awesome job. So shout out to Sean, the dog dad.
Thank you. Now I need some real kids. Let me get some real kids now.
They'll come. They'll definitely come. Trust me. Now you're calling them into your life. I'm pretty sure you've probably been open to having kids, but they'll come when it's time. You can have mine, sure. Sean. I have 4.
Send them over. I got you.
Well, okay. So today we're talking about silencing your inner critic. Something you are very known for talking about, and just being the boss brain method, being the man you are as far as being the king of motivation. What you taught me in the book club and just in general is how our brain like plays a part in so much of our thinking. I never, you would think, I was in nursing school, Sean. But until I was around you, I was like, oh my gosh, where was Sean when I took anatomy and physiology? Because you just broke down the brain and the prefrontal cortex so well to me, to where I was just like, okay, that's like, I don't have to accept that thought. I don't have to, I need to start challenging that thought. And that's why I feel like when you came into my life at that time, that's what I needed. Because I was like, okay, Brittany, you need to figure out what's going on inside of you, because there's some layers you need to go through. And I wasn't ready to do the work. But when I came across you, I knew that I had to do the work.
Mhm. The work must be done. I mean, everybody's got to do the work, and that's where that self-awareness part comes in. In order to do the work, you got to know that there's work to be done. And so it's a really profound thing to be able to say, you know what? There's parts of me that need changing, and identifying them and being willing to do what you got to do to make your life better.
Right. So what does silencing your critic mean to you, Sean? Tell the world what that means. What does that
Uh,
mean?
Silencing your inner critic. When you say that, I think about when I was in college, and I remember I had the worst self-talk in the world. It was just really, really, really bad. Like I couldn't believe like just the tape that was just going over and over in my head, just telling myself what I can't do, who I can't be, people didn't like me, on and on and on. And maybe a few years after college, I can't remember exactly when it was, but I stumbled upon this book. And just, before I get to that, whenever you want to do something in life, but the inner critic is telling you over and over and over that you can't, you probably won't do it. You know what I mean? You're just probably not going to do it because that voice is so strong. And it's also a protective voice as well. Maybe we'll get into that in a minute. But I stumbled upon this book called The Structure of Magic, Volume 1, which is a neuro-linguistic programming book. And so neuro, brain, linguistic, words, right? Programming. And they look a lot at language. And there was three things that I learned. There was generalizations, distortions, and deletions. And I've learned a lot since then, but those were like my gateway drug into silencing my inner critic. So, a generalization would be like you say always, or you say all, or you say every, or you say, for example, like um, people never like me. So that's a generalization. So I might have taken one instance where somebody didn't like me and I just extrapolated that to everybody. Right. So that's a generalization. And it's not true. And just simply asking the question, really, Sean, does no one like you? No one ever likes you? Just allows you to go, wait, that's actually a really silly statement that no one ever likes me. People never like me. No one likes me. I always fail, on and on and on and on. Right. On and on and on. Another one was distortions. It's just how we distort our experience by way of what we believe to be true. So, for example, when I taught Money Mind Academy, and I always talk about how, if you believe that rich people are greedy people, then and terrible people, and if one of these rich people gives money to an organization as a donation, due to that belief, you won't think that that person gave that donation because they're just a kind person who wants to help humanity. That original belief that all rich people are greedy, terrible people is going to make you think they did it for the publicity or they did it for the tax write-off. And so
Right.
we are constantly proving ourselves to be true. And then there's the deletions, is when we take our experience and we delete experiences that contradict our beliefs. And I think one thing that's very applicable to a lot of people here is, for example, you're in a fight or an argument with a significant other, and you say to them, "You never do anything nice for me." and they go, what? I did this yesterday. I did this the other day. I did this the other. Like, what are you talking about? But because of that general belief, like, you never do anything nice for me, in the way, and because of the way that human beings are always confirming what we believe to be true, we delete all of the experiences that don't align with our beliefs. And so, using this, we'll say technology, neuro-linguistic programming, I was very quickly able to deconstruct what I was saying to myself, and using my consciousness in order to do this, because you do have to catch yourself. This is not something
Mhm.
that you just learn about and then it all of a sudden just goes away. You do have to catch yourself. But I think over the years, um, actually not even over the years, within months, I was able to find that 90 something percent of what I would say to myself was absolutely not true.
That's crazy. That just blows my mind, Sean. Like, we are programmed to think negative. Like, I didn't realize that 95% of pretty much how we're thinking is coming from the subconscious mind. And only 5% is pretty much the conscious mind. That just, for me, I realized, okay, Brittany, you have been in autopilot for years.
Yeah.
For years. Like, I'm just going with the program. I'm just letting the thoughts come. I never thought to challenge them until I started acting crazy, Sean. Like, and I was like, okay, this is old Brittany. This is like before I had kids. Like, I still shouldn't be acting like this. Like, getting like angry and pulling up. I mean, Sean, I used to be really bad. I would pull up to parties. I would act the fool if I had to. And it would just, now that I'm actually sitting down and doing the work and pulling back the layers, I didn't realize how much of that is pretty much what's stored into my brain. So can you tell us a little bit about that part as well? Like, I call it whatever you call it, just the storage in your brain. Why do we tend to have such negative thoughts from our brain? Does it come from what does that come from?
Well, it's interesting because um, very seldom do we have a thought that isn't rewarded in some way. And what I mean by that is, like, the way that we talk to ourselves is often a way of protecting ourselves from feeling certain emotions. And so, for example, let's say you're dating somebody new, you go out on a date, and in your mind, you're like, oh my God, they don't like me. They don't like me. Da, 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 da. They think I'm too big, or think I'm too skinny. They think I'm too tall. Think I'm too short. Da, 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 right. And, what we're doing kind of automatically in our brain, or what our brain is doing, is trying to get us ready for the rejection, right? So it doesn't hurt so bad. Because if you thought everything was going well and then you got rejected, you're like, oh my God, my world has been rocked. But if you prepare yourself for the rejection, then again, your brain is trying to protect you. And then if you do get rejected, it doesn't hurt so bad. And so, one of the steps to silencing your inner critic is to ask yourself, like, what is the function of this thought? How is this thought protecting me? How is this thought protecting me from feeling an uncomfortable emotion? And I like what you said about the 95%. I mean, if you think about it, we don't really have to think about much. We don't have to think about walking, talking, eating, driving, putting our pants on, showering, brushing our teeth. We really don't have to think about a whole lot. And so we're essentially on autopilot. And there's this time, like from birth to about the age 7 or 8, where our brains are essentially sponges, and we are absorbing the beliefs, the ideas, the opinions of other people, the authority figures in our life, including like the media and church and so on and so forth. But our parents and our siblings and our grandmothers and grandfathers, we tend to believe what they say, and we take it into the subconscious mind without really doing any critical thinking, because we don't have the ability to critically think. And so, since we're accepting all of these thoughts and ideas, some of them are good ideas, some of them are good beliefs, but a lot of them probably aren't. And they literally go into our subconscious mind, and they're just like the seeds from which our thoughts and our feelings come throughout our lives. And that subconscious mind, because it's so powerful, because it runs 95% of your day, essentially gives direction to your life.
Mhm.
And, unless you can change the subconscious and become aware of like, okay, here's what my subconscious is doing. Here's some old school beliefs and ideas that I got a long time ago when I really had no choice in the matter. Here's how they're directing my life. You can step in, and it's not easy,
Mhm.
but it's important. And if it's important, you'll do it. You can step in and change those thoughts and change those subconscious ideas.
It's amazing. And the way you break it down is amazing because I would constantly just start challenging Sean, like my thoughts, like when you would break it down and let us know, like where everything is coming from and how the prefrontal cortex, play, like you call it, the boss brain,
Mhm.
plays so much in our in everyday life. Um,
Yeah.
I realized that I was thinking about the moment in time, like when you're thinking about the moment, like if something's coming up, like you said,
Mhm.
it's not the moment you're thinking about. You're pretty much thinking about just whatever you're thinking about. It's not the moment, like not the action that's bothering you. It's what you're thinking that's bothering you.
Yeah, it's your interpretation.
It's your
It's
interpretation.
it's the meaning that we give things.
Hmm.
Something can happen to 10 different people, and they will all interpret it in a different way.
Hmm.
And the way that we interpret it usually goes back to something that happened in the past,
Hmm.
something that is stored in the subconscious mind, because the brain is very predictive. It loves to predict things. And so it takes what you're experiencing right now and it says, okay, what is this similar to from the past? And it doesn't really do this consciously. And based on what it's similar to in the past, your brain is going to create thoughts and feelings and predictions based on something that came before. And this is essentially why, human beings tend to live the same day over and over and over again. Their lives very seldom change, no matter how bad they want them to change, is because they're always thinking about the future. Yeah, think about the future and also the present based on what's happened before. And if you do that, you're just going to get a whole lot more of what has happened before.
Okay. So let me stop you right there, Sean, because this type of thinking, somebody for you is probably like, okay, this is normal thinking. Maybe you don't think that, but somebody like me that just pretty much are starting to pull back layers, this type of thinking is like you have to really do the work. You don't realize that it can unfold things in your life and that you can actually become whoever you want to be if you take control of your life. That's something that I learned through Money Mind Academy and through
Mhm.
book club as well. But what is one thing in your childhood, Sean, that you can think of that made you the man today, that actually made you start going from health and wellness to personal development?
I mean, what made me the man that I am today is just parenting. My parents were all about education. They were buying books for me before I could even read, if I remember correctly. And so that was a really big deal for me. They just kind of instilled in me this love for reading and just knowledge. And I was in private school from K through 12, was expected to get really good grades, on and on. And so I think that was a big deal. Also seeing the work ethic,
Mhm.
with my mom as well as my dad, seeing the entrepreneurship, from my dad as well. Watching him at the swap meet with big old, wads of money in his back pocket and selling things. Like I was exposed to a lot of things that maybe a lot of others don't. And I think one of the most important things is I was instilled with a sense of agency. And what I mean by that is like I was taught that I can do anything I put my mind to. You know what I mean? And that there really were no limitations and no blocks. Like I didn't grow up in a family that was always, talking about how, the man isn't going to let you do what you want to do. Like that never even entered my subconscious, growing up. I remember being a little kid just telling my friends, like, I'm going to be rich one day. You know what I mean? Like, how you gonna be rich? I'm gonna be rich one day. You know what I mean? And that was just really just good parenting, good modeling for my parents, good modeling for my aunt, my uncle. Um, Reading great books by, I'm a big fan of like biographies and just reading about successful people. So I read every book there was about Michael Jordan until about 1995 or so, just constantly reading Michael Jordan books. So I learned a lot of work ethic from him as well, and from those books. And so, I mean, that's it. And I understand that I got a head start,
Right.
compared to a lot of people, because they didn't
Mm-hmm.
get that programming. And so,
Mm-hmm.
one of the reasons I do what I do now is to help people to reprogram,
Right.
and to show them like you can do it. Like the only limitations that you have are the ones that you're giving yourself. And so, let's do this.
I love that, Sean. You taught me to actually start where you're at. And it made me just remember like humble beginnings. That's why I asked you, that question as far as in your childhood, what is something that you could think of? Because I think that we have to go back to our roots, and bring up those issues, work through those issues so that we can understand what type of programming that we have. Because like you said, everybody doesn't have that programming. But
Right.
what is one big obstacle that you can tell us that you have faced, growing up, even though you've had different type of background? What is something that you have faced, and that you have overcome that made you successful today?
I would say that there's probably two things, like in terms of like big obstacles, because it wasn't like a merry childhood by any means. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Even though I got a lot of this programming, when I was about 10 years old, my dad just like took off and left, like never to be seen or heard from again until I was about 70, until I was 17 for a day, and then he's rolled out again. And so, I mean, I did have, so essentially we went from doing really well because my dad made a lot of money, right, to being poor, like overnight. And that was a really challenging thing for me. And so I've seen both sides of it. Like I've
Right.
seen, like, as I became an adult, some people only experience poverty growing up and going into their adulthood. Some people only um, get to experience being upper middle class. Like I got both of them, and I got to see like this one was pretty cool. This poverty thing sucks. I ain't trying to go back here. I'm not trying to go back here ever again. And so I think that kind of fuels me, the fact that, we went from, riches to rags literally overnight to, having a toy room where we just had toys. What I'm saying? It was a
Right.
whole room full of toys, and we had like the
Right.
biggest house in the neighborhood and all this stuff. And dad had his Cadillacs and all that, to like, you know, food donations was pretty wild. And that second period of my life, I kind of got some negative programming around money, for sure. And I think one of the obstacles I had to overcome when I got into entrepreneurship, around 2006 or 7, when it comes to the internet, it was overcoming those limiting money beliefs that I had.
Mhm.
And one of the limiting money beliefs that just really rocked my world was like, I had been conditioned during a part of my life, like there's us, the broke people, and then there's them, the rich people, and they are terrible people. And for me, like I was growing my YouTube base, had tons of followers, but I was still broke. And one day it dawned on me, I was like, oh, I'm trying not to be one of them. Wow. Because if I become one of them, I'm going to lose love possibly from
Right.
people. And people are going to talk bad about me. And I'm going to be like this evil, terrible person. Maybe this is a terrible rich person. He's miserable and he's greedy. And I didn't want to be perceived that way. And I think that, that's where choice comes in.
Mhm.
Like you can be well off and be an asshole, or you can be well off and be like the most generous person in the world. And I've always been a generous person. So now I just get to be more generous, when you have some money.
Right. You taught us to serve, Sean.
Yeah.
Start where you are and learn to serve. And I think that was what made me step out, because I was like, I don't have everything together. And then when I seen the video you played in the class, Sean, of humble beginnings of just different people, like including yourself, I was like, you need, and that's what made me be like, oh wow, look at Sean. Like I even got to talk with Megan a little bit about you this weekend. So we
Mhm.
had definitely awesome conversation. It was awesome. I was like, okay, Sean is definitely a man from humble beginnings. Like you said, you are aware of both sides of it.
Mhm.
And you just pretty much pushed the boundaries and became successful and be the king of motivation that you are today.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I think a big part of that, Megan knew me before the internet, which is crazy.
Yeah, she told me.
Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah, she was my personal training client, like way back in like 2001.
Mhm,
Um, so I think one of the most important things I can get across is like, my philosophy on life, which is little by little, a little becomes a lot. Like
mhm,
the time is going to pass anyway. So don't be discouraged about where you are right now. Just keep taking steps. You know what
mhm.
I mean? Just keep to like little steps every day. And 5 years later, because it is going to take time. And maybe it might be a shorter time, but I like to think in 5 year increments. I'm like, where can I be 5 years from now? Because we're right now we're in 2022. Like 2017 seems like yesterday. Doesn't really seem like
Right.
that long ago. And so the time is going to pass anyway. So you get to choose, are you going to make moves every single day as you move through these 5 years? Or are you going to be like, oh, I wish I would have started sooner? Like, no, like just go ahead and do it. And next thing you know, as the years pass, like, damn, I've really come a long way. This is wild. And so that's how I think. And I think that philosophy can be very helpful to a lot of people because we want to make these huge quantum leaps. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? We want to
mhm,
go from $20,000 a year to $100,000 a year, but many
mhm,
cases that doesn't happen. If you can go from 20 to 30, 35, and then
mhm.
30, 35 up to like 50, 60, and then the next year, like as you raise your consciousness, you're like, boom, making six figures. And then you're like I can make six figures in my sleep right now, like without even really trying, because that's just my consciousness. That's where
Right.
my self-worth and my self-esteem and all of that stuff are my self-image is there as well. But this is an incremental thing. So you're making 100,000 and boom, next time you make 250. It just grows as you grow.
Right.
But there's never been a tree that just grew overnight. It just kind of grew day by day. And that's how this whole thing works. You just got to be patient. I'm not patient like driving my car. I'm not patient when I'm waiting for somebody to like meet me for dinner. Like you say you're gonna
Mhm,
be there at 12:30, like I expect you to be there at 12:30, not
mhm,
12:45, right?
mhm,
But so I'm not patient when it comes to that. But when it comes to success and growing myself, I'm very patient
mhm.
because I know what's gonna happen when you keep watering the seed.
And that's what I had to learn, Sean. I think the internet plays a role in a lot of things we do today. I feel like can it makes you think that everything is microwavable. It makes you think that you can go from 20,000 to 100K because you see so and so doing that. And it just made me realize, well, Brittany, you just need to mind your business. Like, mind what you doing. Don't mind what other people doing, and then don't worry about God's business either, because we can't worry about nothing but what we can control. And that's what silencing your inner critic is all about to me. That was a big thing for me, Sean, because I would be thinking bad thoughts, negative thoughts, crazy thoughts. I'm like, I'm psycho. I mean, it is Gemini season. I am a Gemini. And we do have, I mean, we are a little crazy, but we are very compassionate people. We mean well. And I just want to tell you also, thank you, because you gave me the biggest, best birthday early gift to come on here. I was like, oh my gosh, Sean is coming on here before my birthday. This is awesome. And I turned 35 this year, Sean.
Awesome. Well, happy early birthday to you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's
You're welcome.
amazing. Thank you. But with silencing your inner critic, is there anything else that you could tell us as far as people that are unaware of this type of just thinking or training? What is it something that you could give us as far as advice?
um, I think here are a few things. Number one is to name your critic. I think naming your critic is really helpful. I don't have a name for mine, but I just been doing this for so long. But naming your critic so you can create what's called psychological distance is good. Some people call it, you know, uh, Lucifer or the devil or whatever they want to call it. Really helps. Also, naming the opposition. It's kind of like the whole angel on one shoulder and devil on the other shoulder. Like maybe you call it your coach or something like that, like the good part, the good voice. So that'll be the first couple of steps, is creating that psychological distance. But third would be, again, as I was saying before, to look for the payoff. Like, what feeling is that inner critic like keeping you from feeling? So I kind of think of the inner critic as, when mom's driving the car and she's got to slam on the brakes. Mom usually puts out her arm, to keep you from going through the windshield, even though you have a seatbelt on. And so your inner critic does that a lot. It says, wait, don't, this is unknown. This is unfamiliar. We've never done this before. We can't predict what's going to happen except for, some maybe kind of similar experience we had. So your brain just kind of freaks out when anything's unknown. And so your inner critic says he's going to tell you all the reasons why you shouldn't do it, because it kind of freaks out. But I do want to cover maybe one or two that were really helpful for me, because my inner critic was just so bad for so long. One of them is mind reading. Many times as humans, we assume that we know what other people are thinking.
Oh my gosh, Sean, yes.
Yeah, when you really don't know. You really have no idea. That person thinks they're all that. Like, how do you know? That person doesn't like me. Like, how do you know? Did they say that? Did they write you a letter? Like, that person's miserable. How do you know? Did you talk to their therapist? Like, you really don't know. There's a great book called The Power of Storytelling, I think it's called, by The Science of Storytelling by Will Storr. Will Storr is the last name. And one thing he writes about is how the brain, it loves to make up stories. It loves to fill in the blanks. So it'll say, oh, this person thinks this and that person thinks that, and that person doesn't like me, and that person's racist. It's like, how do you just don't know? You really don't know. Speaking of racist, I can get on this tangent forever, but I'm not.
I love it. I heard you today.
I kind of talked about this on the show today. That was a freestyle event. So, a lot of times, like, we filters, there's one thing called filtering. It's called a cognitive distortion. And we filter our experience through something. It might be our shortcomings. But one of the big things that I see today is, like, we filter everything through racism. And it's like everything becomes racist because we're looking for it all the time. But, I was having a DM conversation with somebody the other day, and I was like, I don't play that game. Not that there's no racism at all, but I don't create meaning through a filter of racism. If something is like overtly racist and someone calls me a racist name, I'll be like, okay, that was racism. But if something kind of more ambiguous happens, I don't quickly go to racism, because I know there's many other interpretations of what just happened. You know what I'm saying? And so that's a big one that I see these days. Another one is comparing ourselves to other people, scrolling through social media. And, I can scroll for a little while, but even me, at some point, I'm kind of like, I want that. Why am I not that cool? Well, I don't know. Yeah. I talked about this on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. Like, why am I, and that's when I have to stop. Because it's kind of this natural inclination for human beings to compare themselves. Like, that's why I really don't follow a lot of influencers. Like, I follow like 2. That's it. And I just, I think life would be so much better if we can get control of our comparison addiction. And, I think for that, really owning our uniqueness is huge. And really accepting the fact that we're all different fruits. Like, everybody's a different fruit. Like, I'm an apple, you're an orange, somebody's a lemon, everybody's a different fruit. And it just wouldn't make any sense for the apple to be like, ooh, orange, I want your orange skin. You know what I'm saying? Like, just embrace the appleness of your apple. And when we compare ourselves, like, number one, stop. When you
Mm-hmm.
start feeling like a little down when you're scrolling through social media, stop, put the phone away, move
Mm-hmm.
on, do something new, use your consciousness. Another thing is just to, think about all of the wonderful attributes that you have. And that's where gratitude comes in. That's where honoring yourself comes in. And also realizing that social media, if you're doing a lot of comparison through social media, like usually social media isn't very real. It's everybody's highlight reel. It's everybody's like Sports Center top 10. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's a whole lot of other parts of the game that you're not seeing. And so always keep that in mind. Nobody's life is perfect. I do want to go back to the I think the video that you were talking about, like the humble beginnings video. Was it the one with
Yes.
me talking, and then there was like Gary
In your
Vaynerchuk and
studio,
Marie?
yes, all three of y'all, Gary V, and you had
Yeah,
all different people on there. It was awesome.
Marie Forleo's in there, Amy Porterfield,
Mm-hmm.
Prince EA, I think he's
Mm-hmm.
called, or Prince E. Like, sometimes people will compare their chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 20. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And you got to realize, like, this is steps. This
Mm-hmm.
is different levels of the video game. And sometimes people, actually all the time, there are others who have been playing the game for longer than you have, but they all started on level number 1. Like, nobody gets to skip steps. And what you got to see in that video was like their chapter 1, where
Mm-hmm.
it's like Prince EA, he's like damn near high, probably just, hey, yo, what, both of my computers broke and but then I juxtapose that with like one of his most popular videos. It's like well
Right.
produced, and he's in the hospital, and it's like he's doing almost like some poetry, and it's like, yo, here's where he started in
Mm-hmm.
like 2009 or something, and here's where he is now in 2022. The difference between him and somebody else is that he didn't stop. You know what I
Right.
mean? Or here's Marie Forleo sitting on her couch, talking to her webcam, about something, cross-legged, just talking. And here's boom, her in the studio with makeup and wardrobe. You know what I
Right.
mean? Here's Gary V talking into a camera with terrible low quality, and boom, now you move forward, and Gary V is Gary V. So everybody had to start somewhere. They weren't perfect. They're still not perfect. And I think it's that imperfection that
Mm-hmm.
is relatable to people. And I talked to Mel Robbins about this a couple of years ago on an interview I did with her. And one of the things about Mel Robbins is that when she was getting her start and she was like doing TV things and whatnot, people found her to be unrelatable, so it never took off. And I think it was her agent or somebody said, or she said, like, yo, it's your perfection. Like, people, they can't see themselves in you. It's really unrelatable. And now you see Mel Robbins with millions of followers on the Instagram because she talks about her imperfections and the struggles that she's going through, and people can see themselves in that. And so if you're looking for perfection, understand that like human beings just simply aren't perfect. And since you're a human being, you're not going to be perfect. And no one's ever going to be able to see your work or be able to know who you really are when you're hiding behind perfection and never putting anything out to the world. You're just like, I can't do it because it's got to be perfect. Like, I was talking about this. I was recording the podcast yesterday, so this is really
Mm-hmm.
fresh in my mind. I got all these books over here, and a lot of these books, they're first edition, and then there's a second edition, and there's a third edition and a fourth edition. And what that means is like the first one wasn't perfect. And so the
Right.
person improved upon it, got some, maybe the latest research, put it in the new one. That's the second edition. And then there's a few things wrong in the second edition. Oh, there's new science. You're going to write a third edition. People are trying to write the 12th edition as the first book. You know what I mean? They're trying to do Marie Forleo's highly produced videos with their first video, and that's just not what you want to do. You're setting yourself up for failure. Start where you are, as you were saying.
I'm glad you said that, Sean. Thank you so much for saying that. It actually makes me feel better because before you came on the show, I was so nervous. Like, I talked to Laura, I talked to Megan. I was like, y'all, Sean is coming on my show. Like, I need this high tech. I'm telling my husband to go buy this. And then he's like, how much is that? He looking and he like, you want this? I was like, I'm not getting I want this mic. I want this mic costs like $300. I want this mic, but it's a nice mic. The Blue Yeti mic is, I don't want that mic. I want this mic. He was like, baby, Sean knows you. Calm. I was freaking out, Sean. I even bought your shirt, not just because you was coming on here, but it should be here. Like, I was so hating because I was like, wait a minute, where's Sean's shirt? But I did go on the merchandise store and purchase your shirt. Y'all definitely support Sean. Anything you're doing, I'm always waiting to see. I'm always like, I'm waiting to get an email to see what Sean's doing. But thank you, Sean. Thank you for saying that. You make me feel so much better. Guys, like he said, remember to start where you are. Learn to silence your inner critic. Before we go, Sean, I'm going to ask you just some random questions, and then I'm going to let you go because I know it's early where you're at. I like to play with my guests just to let the people know them a little more. And you could just it's just random questions. Just five. So the first one is, would you prefer basketball or football?
Basketball.
Of course. And would you prefer Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts?
Dunkin' Donuts, because I don't drink coffee.
Oh, okay. And would you prefer to have a shot of tequila or a glass of wine?
Real quick, for the Dunkin' Donuts, I'm eating the donuts. I'm not having Dunkin' Donuts coffee. But for tequila is my favorite thing in the world. It's not like alcoholic wise, but you know what I'm saying. I drink tequila. I like margaritas.
Okay. And what's your favorite Disney character?
You know what? I'm not really a Disney person, but
we'll
say Mickey Mouse, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. The last one. What's the best way to cheer you up? The best way anybody can cheer up Sean Croxton?
Let's see here. Make me some tacos.
I
like some tacos.
Did you give me the right version, Sean, or did you give me the edited version? You thought about that a little bit.
Yeah, I did think about that because I just wasn't sure what the answer was going to be, and for some reason my subconscious mind was like tacos. Hook me up with some tacos, or bring me some, like I'm all into food. I love food. Food makes me happy. Bring me some Dungeness crab, like a whole thing of it from Costco. I'll tear the whole thing up. That's my jam right there. But yeah. I do want to say real quick, if anybody wants to learn more about self-talk, there's a book called Self-Esteem by Matthew McKay that I recommend. If you don't want to read the bigger version of it, there's like a companion guide to it. It's like a square book. That'll be like a good intro for you before you read the big 300-page book. What else is there? I think that's pretty much it in terms of book recommendations for what we talked about today.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you. I know I could have talked about 1,000 topics with you. I was like, let me talk about something with Sean.
I still got 7 minutes. You got something
else? What else could you tell the audience, Sean? Before we go, I know you guys can find Sean. He is on Instagram. He's Sean Croxton. Also, SeanCroxton.com. Anything else you could tell us? Any more jewels? Like for newbies like me, Sean, what could you say? I want to use all of your time.
Read books. Read books. Put your phone in a drawer for a couple hours a day if you can. Don't be distracted. People have a hard time with distractions. Surround yourself with really good people who, are striving for something similar to what you're striving for. People who just want to become better people. Treat your body well. You know what I mean? Walk, work out, eat good food, and take your vitamins and be a little Hulkster. I don't know why I said that. I guess I used to love Hulk Hogan when I was a kid. He was like, take your vitamins and be a little Hulkster. Tear his shirt
on your bad day, Sean, because we're perfect. Now, we can't be jolly every day. Right. What do you say to people who are like really, people are struggling. People are still, robbing Peter to pay Paul. Check the check. What can you say to people that just need some type of inspiration? But more than that, what else can you say?
The first thing I think of is Steve Harvey. when he says, you done survived all your bad days, right? Like we've all survived all of our bad days. We're going to get through it. There's never been a bad thing or a problem that was permanent. You know what I'm saying? For every problem, there's a solution. If there's no solution, then it's really not a problem. You know what I'm saying? It's something that's out of your control. So what are you going to do about it? So I think that's number one. Things do pass. There's a lesson in everything that you're going through. And also you got to take responsibility for whatever's happening. You know what I mean? What I mean by that is like, you know, not to blame yourself, but I love to break up the word responsibility into like response ability. Like you have the ability to respond to anything that's happening in your life. And sometimes the things that are happening in your life are monumentally huge problems. But instead of looking at it as a monumentally huge problem, I think the first thing that we can do is like, how can I break this down into actionable components or elements? You know what I mean? What is the first thing that I need to do here? Like, let me just do this one piece for now. And then once I'm done with that piece, let's move on to the next piece. And then once we're done with that piece, let's move on to the next piece, because you know, the brain freaks out when we're looking at huge problems. The brain freaks out when we're just staring at the top of the summit, and right now we're at the bottom of the mountain. You know what I mean? And so the only way to get there is going to be through steps. But if you never take your first step, the problem really, you know, probably isn't going to go away because we didn't take the step. So how can you break it down? It makes me think of like Will Smith when he was talking about like building the brick wall. You know, his dad made he and his brother build the brick wall, and like the only way that you can build the brick wall is like one brick at a time. Like, I'm going to lay this brick as perfectly as a brick can be laid, and soon you will have a wall. And so I like to think of everything that way. Break it down, tackle a piece, and then move on to the next part. And that's all I got.
That's okay. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed everything you said, Sean. There's nothing else I could pick your brain on. I'm still, like I said, I'm still following you, but I'm going to sign out. I'm going to let you go. I want to thank you so much for coming on episode number 27, Silencing Your Critic with Sean Croxton. You guys go like, share, or subscribe to my YouTube. And I'm on like Apple and Anchor and all of that good stuff. But go find me. Go try me out. But thank you, Sean. You have a good
Brittany.
weekend.
Good times. You too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.